I want to talk a little more about the kind of accessibility thing Elden Ring kind of has. Well, this is a subject I've been talking about for a while, but the Elden Ring conversation really, because it was a game that was very niche, that kind of crossed into people being more enthusiastic about it, had more mainstream appeal. And I still don't really understand why. I don't know if it's because of the open world, because it's basically just Souls with the open world and fucking jump and horse mechanics and shit. But aside from that, it's the same thing you've grown to expect from this company, or rather this particular franchise. And we did a video. It's been tracking very well. A lot of people have been chiming in on that, where I talk about, I forget the title. It's like Elden Ring and the accessibility nonsense. I want to expand on some of that stuff that we had talked about there before. And that is, I saw some comments, I do read them, by the way. Wasn't representative of all of the people, not even most, obviously. It was just more so kind of a reoccurring thing that I saw. And this was this concept of gatekeeping. Now, I've said that gatekeeping is it's a buzz term. It doesn't mean anything coming from them. It usually means that you have some sort of standard and people are mad that you have that. But I do want to talk about it. So let's backtrack, because a lot of people may be new to this conversation. So let me talk about it a little bit. The lines of accessibility have been blurred because it crossed into core gameplay mechanics and difficulty, right? Some people would say that, well, they'd be lying. Well, when people talk about accessibility, they only mean like colorblind stuff, maybe adjusting controller settings to remap them depending on what no, that is simply not true. Maybe if people were honest, that would be true. But you can go watch my video about this big accessibility and gaming guy. I think he's like, I don't know if he's legally blind. I don't know if it's like red, blue. I don't know what it actually his blindness was. But you can go watch that video. We watched his video talking about this whole deal. And he was responding to, well, it's an accessibility mess. You don't have any visual cues that you're about to be hit from behind, like core gameplay stuff that just you'd have to change the entire game in order to accommodate this person. But this whole gatekeeping aspect, the persons or the group, just a couple of people, let's say, and they would say something along the lines like, and you've heard this probably be said before, how does this hinder your experience, right? If the game is made easier. First of all, that is a stupid way of looking at it, because you should more so look at it from the experience that the game developers want to give you, right? And we've talked about the director of from the FromSoft games, as well as the I think Elden Ring, and he was like, well, the difficulty aspect is part of our company, it's part of our identity. We're not getting rid of that. So if that's not the experience that the devs want you to have, then why on earth would they be required to accommodate you? But my argument has been, it crosses into anything. Now, anybody, doesn't matter if you're considered a more normal person or you have some sort of disability, everybody has some sort of shortcoming somewhere. Everybody has their talents. Everybody has their things that they are good at, things that they're bad at, types of games that they're generally good at or they're interested in, types of games that they're not. And the minute that we start looking at these shortcomings or deficiencies, even for some people, as, well, every single development company in any given space must include you, then you are hindering the brand itself. Because what you then ensure is a mundane experience. Let's just say that. Sure, there are some games that, hey, it's just a walking simulator, interactive movie. Last of Us 2, right? It got praised for all its accessibility options, which is just basically making the game easier for you and all of that stuff. Of course, it's a very narrative-driven game. It's not really about core gameplay or anything regarding that. And maybe that makes sense for those types of games, despite me talking about how dog shit that game was. Never mind that. What we are disputing here is the idea that every single game must accommodate every single person. This stems from this inclusivity movement, this idea that everybody, if it is to exist, everybody needs to be able to access it and complete it, which is a nonsensical term. It's a nonsensical term to try to, that companies you think must abide by, for the sake of accommodating everybody. And maybe it's FOMO, maybe it's other things people say, even with the difficulty aspect. Well, I can't. I just want to experience the story. Okay, go watch someone else play it. Go watch someone else play it. Thankfully, there are companies. It's funny because most of them are Japanese, the ones that are just saying, look, we're going to build the game how we want, with the experience and how you want. You either like it or you don't, and that's just what it's going to be. Instead of trying to include all of these other fucking people. And it's worked for them. It's shown that there's nothing wrong with that, obviously, and you adjust based upon what the game and its experience is trying to allow you. Now, that doesn't mean that the game is automatically good or bad because it had some sort of niche in it. No, it more so means that for what it is, the game's great. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, there is a barrier of entry. And some people are going to hit the wall, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're not under some sort of obligation to be able to complete everything, or your deficiencies and shortcomings be sort of accommodated just because reasons. Now, look, if you want to give a company credit for doing that and including you, that's fine. See, what we're not arguing that those companies shouldn't have, obviously, the right to do something for you. That's not what we're talking about. It's not a knock to those companies that tend to do that. Fine. What we're saying is that not every single company has to do that. They have a particular demographic in mind when they make it. And sometimes that is going to keep people out. Like there's going to be a barrier of entry. It sounds fucked up to people that are so obsessed about inclusivity, but I've never looked at anything, video game or not. I've never looked at it like, well, I need to have access to it and I should be the one to access it at all times. Look, I like to think of myself as a relatively decent gamer, considering the games that I do play. But I know there's some games that, people are better than me at, and I don't look at it like the devs must adjust to me, right? That's what these cocky, sort of arrogant people, and unfortunately they hide behind, and you have people that hijack, disability arguments to make it be about difficulty, which is what that video was. Now, I think this stems from a more individual issue that some of these folks have, where they look at it like, I don't like other people are having fun, or other people are being able to do things that I cannot do, and therefore the game must be brought down to my level. And if you don't, then you're a bigot or you're inconsiderate or ableist, all this other dumb shit. And I'm glad, again, people aren't responding to that, certainly in Elden Ring's case. Now, if it's an American company, they'd adjust everything, run their game into the ground if that's something that they wanted to do or whatever. But that's an individual problem, right? That's an individual issue that these people actually have that needs to be addressed if you feel like everything must be accessed by you, or that you think something is good or the merit of something is based upon how many fucking people can access it, which is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. You can have a mundane experience that generally everybody can play, but that doesn't mean that the game's good, right? At all. And the funny thing is, when it like games like this, even on a difficulty aspect, right? You lack the reaction speed, you have some sort of cognitive issues, and you just cannot time something very well. The hilarious thing about games like Elden Ring and previous Souls games is that it has the summons thing. And I tested this out myself. The community is still special. It's unlike any fucking community that I've certainly dealt with, in where you could go to a dungeon, get your fucking ass kicked, right? You could do that little the whatever deal, get a summons, right? And I'm not talking about the ghost summons or that, whatever they call those damn things. No, I'm talking about like summoning cooperatively other people, and they will fucking carry you through that. Like I tested it. Like I'm like, all right, bam. Let me just see if these guys are rocking with it like they had been previously. Had a co-op summons, pushed it. Guy comes up, he like looked at me, did some emote, and then he was basically like, follow me. And we went through the fucking dungeon, and he basically, I won't say it was a full carry, because obviously, there was some times in there that the other guy almost died. But it was like he knew where to go. He knew it was a secret door, because, it's good for that, where you have some fucking hidden door to get somewhere. And he knew that. Beat the boss out end of it. He does an emote, we up out of there. Like, that's baked into the game. Never mind the little notes that people leave if you're getting confused. Like, I know there's something underground here or something. How do I get there? You read the notes on the ground, and some of them are stupid, but some of them are like, hey, try hitting the ground. And then you hit the ground. Oh shit, there's a fucking little downslope into, like, it's baked into the game. So the community rocks with you, right? The community rocks with you. It's as accessible as a game has ever been in that regards, but it's not from the gameplay perspective. And it shouldn't have to be. It should not have to be. It's not required that you access every single thing and be able to complete every single thing. This is what I've said before. And I'm glad more people are waking up to this, to see creatives that have followings say, man, this is my first Souls type game. I don't ever want to play one of these walking simulators again. When I see people say that, I'm like, yes, maybe this will have developers more intrigued by that, because what we've gotten for the most part, despite the games looking a lot better, they have been walking simulators that are basically, you can sleep through them. And they tell you everything you need to do. They hold your hand. And again, that makes sense maybe for certain games, but the idea that all of them have to be that way is complete and utter nonsense. But for you to look at that and say, well, this is some gatekeeping aspect because, well, why is the experience that these people have, how does it impact yours as a straw man? Because they have nothing else. They have to think that that's the argument, and it's not. Devs say, this is how we want you to experience the game. It is about growth. It is about perseverance. You come into this game, you have virtually nothing. You suck. And you can get destroyed, but it is to work your way up to become great, struggle, and you do feel good. If you are a regular person, you feel good once that happens. But you don't have to, let's say, you don't have to change the game in itself and what it's about. Because like I said, all this is a Souls game, essentially. Just has a little more appeal. You don't have to, and it shows you that you don't have to make those adjustments for the sake of accommodating so many people. And they're going to still bitch. Hell, we see it right now. All of these games journals sitting there crying and shit. Well, it still doesn't have an easy mode and all this. It doesn't, like, okay. Directors over there from Software said, you know what? Oh, well, you get over it. You want to go play a walking simulator? There's a bunch of games that are out there like that will walk you. Ubisoft makes these. They'll hold your hand through every single thing, and you will be fine. Go play those. They exist. And I'm not trying to change those particular games. Fine. If that's what appeals to you, then go do your thing. That's your business. But every game doesn't have to do that. There's no disrespect being done by the devs that don't choose to do that when they say, I have a certain person in mind. And sure, there's a barrier of entry, and not everybody's going to be included. Some people are going to have shortcomings. It's not going to be their type of game. That's fine. But that doesn't mean that the game in itself is bad. It just means that, well, you can't fucking access it to the degree that some other people can. And that's not limited to disabilities. Unfortunately, that's like people have tried to do that. So it's more of an appeal to emotion than an actual argument. But every individual with disabilities or without them has shortcomings. I mean, there's a very few people out there that are just great at everything. Okay. It's very few people out there that people have the type of games they're good at, what they are, you know, what benefits them, all that sort of stuff. And that's fine. Stop looking at it like it's a threat upon you just because you can't access it. That is a life lesson that you guys need to learn. It doesn't matter where you're from, what your ilk is, what your makeup, ethnic background, disabilities that you have, whatever. You need to understand that it is not up for other people to validate you. And you shouldn't need them to include you for you to feel some kind of way about yourself. Take it for what it is. It's just like, all right, well, this ain't for me. I'm going to move on and go about my business. That's something in a life lesson that more people need to learn. It doesn't matter what it is. Do not hide behind your fucking shortcomings and think that other people must change to adjust for you. You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Cannon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, ericdjuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.